back to the channel. My name's Adrian. Today I'm going to take my review of Tower of Hapshut, which is an expansion for my favourite Shadowdark setting, Shadows of Empire. Now, just before we get into the review, I want to take you back to 1999, if you're old enough, and the film The Mummy. And I think this was one of the films that really changed my interest in Egyptian mythology, as well as the TV series Stargate, and the film, obviously. But when that Mummy film came out, I think a lot of us of a certain age were become a lot more interested in ancient Egyptian gods and tombs. And the reason I'm talking about that is because this Tower of Hapshut is that, in an essence, not quite thousands of years old. Well, the tomb they're going in could be, but this is an adventure setting where the players will be discovering an ancient tower, sort of Egyptian themed area with all the catacombs underneath, which really excites me. It's a higher level adventure. I don't cover many sort of 6th to 8th level adventures, and quite rightfully so, because there's some nasty stuff in here. So before I get into the review, let me just take you over to Tabletop RPG to show where I can pick it up. So it's written by Fenris77, and for full disclosure, this was sent to me a while back, actually, and I suddenly dawned on me that I haven't actually covered it yet, which is appalling of me, so I apologise. But here we have the link here for on Tabletop RPG. I say I didn't pay for this, but if you are going to pick this up, it is PDF only. Currently, print on demand for stuff will be coming at some stage, but if you are going to pick it up, please do consider using my affiliate link, and thank you to everyone that does. So it's coming in 62 pages. We've got a dungeon as well as another one-site sort of one-shot place in here. But as you can see here, it's an adventure for level 6 to 8 characters. Rumours of treasure deep in the wilderness lead your intrepid group into a temple complex deep within the wilds of the Deadlands. And as you can imagine from Fenris77, the maps are going to be beautiful. He does. And the layout's really nice as well, because of he's got this really good use of sidebars, which I'll show you. Now let's just get actually into the book. So here we have the front cover. Oh, I should just say that you could run this as a standalone. If you're not interested in Shadows of Empire, which is in essence it's Warhammer-esque in world. But if you want to just run this as a level 6 to 8 campaign setting, easy. You don't really need it. You've got everything in here other than the core rulebook for Shadowdark that you're going to need. So the front cover should give you an idea of what's going on. Derelict, sort of Egyptian rundown theme, okay? Right, so we'll get into front cover. So the adventure here is written by Fenris77 and edited by Musgrub, who both of which are actually in my Discord, and we've actually talked quite a lot. So it's quite nice when you sort of, get more familiar with writers and creators. But we get into the contents here. So we've got the background into what happened, Thelomon magic as well. So there's very much, as you'd imagine, by that Egyptian theme. It's very much sort of magic of the dead. We've then got specific beasts and new creatures in here, settings detail, the Merry Bastards, which is a little one-shot, and then we've got the Tower of Hapshut itself, as well as the ruins, the catacombs, and then just some Games Master's notes on how to run it. So I'll just get into the disaster, Ashlom. So this basically, in essence, 100 years ago, the Empire turned up into the Gemel Valley to take on the Thelomon dynasty, and within a few days, it was quite obvious that the Empire was going to be winning. So what actually happened is his head advisor, which is Hapshut, tried to do a necromantic ritual on the pharaoh, and the pharaoh actually wasn't interested in it. He was happy to go to death without the ritual taking place. So, needless to say, they moved on to the next land after completing their death ritual. However, Setka, which was one of the high priests, was not impressed with Hapshut for not seeking revenge against the Empire. So he basically did a ritual and swore revenge on the whole of the Empire. Hence the reason this valley now has turned into a lot of undead. And Setka is in... Well, he's in the basin. That is where the players will be going investigating to see the cause of the undead. From a setting point of view, I'll just show you. So you don't need this, but this is the Deadlands book. And so this is the main campaign setting that you can buy for this. But if you are going to be running it in the campaign setting, then we've got these 5 hexes down here. This is basically where you're set. So This is the fort, which is the main campaign setting for the Deadlands, and these are the areas that it's set in down here. Okay, so Book of the Dead. As you'd imagine, necromancy is, well, it's something that shouldn't be trifled with, even though it's my actual favourite magic spellcasting that you can actually take. But say what Fenris does here is there's a lot of sort of sidebars and hints and tips of what's going on regarding it. But as we get into the adventure, you're going to find books and tomes that the players can read to start understanding what's going on. So we've got some beasts here. So most of the beasts, though, the Thelomon beasts are all undead for purposes of the undead effects. And we've got 5 pages of new creatures, including these Madoi, archers, guards, and warriors. We've got some drones here, a tomb scorpion, which is utterly horrific. Anyone that is aware of my channel knows I hate scorpions with a passion, but these are the size of a draft horse, and there's several of these buried around the location. We've got the behemoths, some carrions here, and then we've got some high priests, as well as finally the golden king at the end. It does say, so some of the entries here that you're going to need from the Shadowdark core rulebook, but it kindly actually really nicely lists out the pages in here. This is the bit where it covers the settings and exactly where you are going to be in the Deadlands as well. But one thing the Tower of Hapshut and all its residents, let's call them, really despise is zombies. Because the Deadlands is full of zombies now. But this is full of undead. And what if the zombies ever actually turn up here? Then the undead actually just stop what they're doing. Because we've got a lot of drones still carrying around, pretending or trying to fix locations and do things, but they will actually stop everything and then en masse go and attack the zombies. So when you are rolling the encounters, just say if you do have zombies, roll again here, and then what the players might actually see is the Thelomon undead actually just then en masse fighting the zombies, which actually could be quite beneficial for the players. Here's the sort of closer detail of the geography in the area that we talked about. So we've got 6 different hooks in here. So from a massive bounty on Logan Redeye. Who's Logan Redeye, you say? Don't worry, he is coming up because he's on the very next page here. But it did confuse me initially. I was like, why is it there? We've got rumours of Magical Island, great legendary items and treasures within the Tower of Hapshut. So it's got the usual reasons for the players to go. But Logan Redeye is a local bandit, and he raided the caravan of Fort Durance, and he's hiding out with his band. Well, not as big a band as he used to have, because the zombies and tomb scorpions are daily sort of taking out his members. But the players might have a bounty to go and find him, and he's basically located right next to the Tower of Hapshut. So it's a bit of a linking, because the players might go there to hunt him, see that and go, that's quite ancient. There might be something interesting in there. But we've got the stats here for Logan Redeye, and he's got some named men and a little bit of plot going on in here. I probably should have said, actually, obviously if you are a player and you want to play this, you shouldn't be watching this. I think it goes without saying that a lot of adventure modules players shouldn't actually really be watching, but I try to keep the spoilers to a minimum. But we've got this bandit camp here, so if you want to go and find Logan Redeye, this is his camp. Again, if you don't want to have this in the Deadlands setting, this is just a nice little one shot for the players. And it's probably going to take you an hour, 2 hours at most. You're going to go 4 little locations. They've got a little bit of attacking to get in, and then all the bandits inside. There's a little bit more going on to it, so they might actually find some of the other motivations that go on. They then get into the background about, when the spell actually failed, what actually happened then to the Pharaoh, about Sepka, the principal advisor being angry and sort of taking over and seeking revenge on the whole valley, not just, the few people that didn't go with him or the Empire's like, no, I'm going to shut down and burn the whole of the valley. And he's commanded all of his forces to always destroy all the zombies in there, and there are many drone workers. So these are sort of like mindless undead that sort of go around and work above and below the complex. And they're not being given any new sort of orders in years, because no one's actually seen Setka. He is hidden somewhere, obviously within the vicinity. The players will find him eventually. And so, they just go around doing everything on sort of repetition. We've then got some key rooms here. It's sort of the key for the room describes what you can say to the players. All the stat blocks are in the sidebars for the monsters. So yes, we've got the bestiary right at the start. Then we've got the stat blocks, which I'll show you as we go through. One of the things that Fenris does really well is this. So beautiful, clear maps. So we've got the surface ruins. So this is obviously on the ground, and we've got the players that are going to approach in normally from and head over the Well of Souls. We've got a couple of statues here, and these rooms may be full or recently empty of certain creatures, from things like tomb scorpions to a variety of soldiers and sort of Madoi warriors. So here, this one here should give hints and tips. So if they ever look in here, this hall is empty. Don't worry, we're going to get a lot more detail. I love the fact it sort of gives you an idea of what's going on. We've got the tower here, this sort of black, rocked, dark tower, stands in 150 feet tall. No other entrances. There's no windows, completely blacked out. There's like a few little slits that they can see, but no other way for the players to enter. I do really like these sort of adventures where you've got a ground, the catacombs underneath, and then a tower, and the players can do them in whichever order that they choose. You know, it gives them that element of freedom to sort of wander around and interact with everything on the ground, and then some head up or head down. But the tower itself is only 4 floors, so that's going to be relatively quick when they actually get to it. But we're going to get the sort of descriptions of the areas, and you are going to clearly see that this hasn't been touched for several years. But one little mini game that the players need to keep an eye on is every undead that's killed within here, you need to just keep count, because once you get to every 10 that are dead, then as a games master you can roll a d6. If you roll a 6 on that, the alarm is triggered, and all of the drones, all of the other undead wake up and they are aware of what's going on. So once you get to 50 killed, you're pretty much going to be in that alarm action. But what you do to make the players aware that something's going on as they kill them, it says here to sort of telegraph it. Then as you kill the undead, a blue spark will sort of glow in the chest, will rise up, and then it will zoom off towards the tower. And everyone that you kill, this is going to take place. And all the other creatures will be ignoring the blue glowing things, but eventually the players are going to go, hold on, something's going on here. And then, I'm the sort of games master, I roll my stuff in front of my players anyway. So after a while, whether they keep count or not, I don't know, but I will just roll d6 and either move on or the camp is just switched on and ready to go. It will then turn the whole of the surface areas from unsafe straight into risky. Unless otherwise specified, everything is dark. We've got some encounter tables and some invocative moments here. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sort of break down each location as we go through, because I think it's nice for you to go and discover. But you will see all of this. So take, for example, the Well of Souls here. So a large pile of turned earth clutters this corner of ruins. Bones, old and new, litter the underbrush here. So I said, this again, what Adam does wonderfully is he will just put another map in the sidebar. So there's going to be a scorpion swarm in here. We've got it earlier in the book. However, it's all right. It's here. It's in the sidebar. And we know exactly which location we're in. And there's like we can climb down to area 29 here if you want to go down through the souls. But it's still little things about rituals, and there's a couple of statues and things like that. A breakdown of each of the rooms. Again, sidebars for all the relevant creatures and monsters they're going to find. They're going to get to this room of heroes, and then finally they're going to approach the tower. This bit's quite amusing, that they can see sort of hints and tips of an area that's been started to be excavated. And if they spend an hour of digging, they're going to get this wonderful +2 magic weapon, and the breakdown there. They're going to give up a whole hour of things going on. And then finally, the players, through temptation or running out of places to go, they will end up in the Dark Tower. In the Dark Tower, getting through the doors is relatively easy. However, it is empty and silent. But there is a thick door to the stairs going up, and the stairs going down is open. After a while, obviously there's a glyph in the door, but they have no way of breaking through the door, be magic, anything. So it's completely immune to magic and completely immune to damage. So in reality, they're going to have that element of freedom. They haven't. They're going down. They're going to head into the catacombs. But the way the book's written, it will take you through the tower next. And so we've got 3 different areas before we get to the top. One of the big ones here is the library, which is going to give the players an awful lot of information and scrolls, and it gives them a bit more hints and tips of what's going on. But the reality of they want to know really what's happened, it's not in this library, it's not in this tower, it's down in the catacombs. So, but they will find it eventually. We've got some random rolls for some of the priests here that may or may not be in different tables. Now, big spoiler coming up, main bad guy on the top floor. Okay, and he's been here for, I think it was, I'm sure it said it was like some 50 years, brooding the fact that he can't get this magical bronze device to work. If only he was in a different room in the catacomb and he'd actually be able to find said book. Bit of hint and spoiler of what's going on. So let's get into the catacombs and see where we are. So when they go down, the players are going to come here in 13. Again, we've got choices. We've got 3 different exits from the room, which is nice. I like... These are clever maps that, you know, I think we all tire as a games master of linear maps, especially players. It can be a little bit harder sometimes where it's not linear because, you know, if they might go to 13, they might go to straight around to 15 or 14 or even down to 18. So you are jumping around a bit, but it doesn't matter because the way that Fenris writes these, you know, we'll go into here. So we've got 4 rooms on a page and you can clearly see in the maps the way, you know, we're going. So we've got all the stats in here. So you're not really jumping around too much. And the players, you know, you are going to want to have this printed. The only thing I don't know whether this comes, they normally come with it, but this was actually sent to me over a Google Share folder, so it wasn't sent to me through Tower of RPG, so I don't know whether the maps are included. I'm not going to say I guarantee it, but Adam nearly always includes maps, both player-facing and Games Masters maps. So if not, say you just a case of just printing out that page to run it. But we've got this. What made me laugh is, again, wonderful dyslexia. Everyone else is going to read that as a Robin room. I read it as a Robin room, and then you get in and go, oh, it's full of robes. That's why it's a Robin room. But so we've got this nice robe here. I've sent Heligun, and again, in the sidebar in there. We're then going to get into the cells and some other avatars and stuff in here. One of the main big temples with some avatars. Sobek are going to be in there. We've got the priestly tombs where people, the priests have died with some scarabs. It wouldn't be a proper mummy-esque thing if you're not going to be fighting some sort of scarab swarms. Vivisection lab, very much the mummy, you know, where they're taking bodies apart. And then we're going to get into the lab supplies, and then we get the main Hapshut's tomb, and this is where we're going to find one of the 3 keys to get through the tower, get through that door on the tower. But they are going to wake up through the sarcophagus. They are going to get Hapshut, and he is going to rise tired, grumpy, confused. And it's down to the players on how they interact with him, but hopefully they'll be able to get the key, then they can go back into the tower. Got a guard station here, the crystal research location, the avatar assembly, which is the other room where they will find one of the keys. So say there are 3 keys. Downside is one of the keys is in the tower. That's how the door's locked, because he locked from the inside. So they've only got 2 opportunities to get the keys, so they will have to come down in. And once they got that key and they recognise it, will they just leave and not explore the rest? It's up to players, isn't it, sometimes. This is quite a cool room because this is where they make the avatars, and there are 10 slowly, partially made avatars. Well, 4 of them are fully made and probably will come to life depending on how they interact with the priest in there. And then finally we've got Hapshut's study, which is the area where the secrets are and the bookcases, and where the players will discover more about the undead and what's going on in the tower, which I said, if Setka had actually investigated this whole of it, he's been here for 100 years. He should have just wandered down to the bottom corner and he'd be able to work it out. And then finally we've got the Well of Souls, which is that bit on the top where you can drop down, or you can come straight back up from here. Then we've got some notes here, which say you might want to play this adventure with higher or lower levels, and you might just need to adjust it. And when you're running the undead, just remember that a lot of them are mindless drones. They're not really going to interact with the players, you know, so let the players just sort of sneak past. And even if they fail a sneak, I say they're not going to be that interested in the players until the alarm is set off, and then well, that's going to change things up. One thing all the priests are going to get in here is these incantations, and there's a choice of 6. And when you're running them, it does say that they can either have one or up to some of them. Actually, I think the head priest gets 3, but it just gives you some sort of hints and tips as to which ones that you should select. Again, I'm going to let you read this in your own mind, but Thoth's command, oof, that is quite nasty because it's going to allow a d6 of the Mandoi or the Eternal Guards within near to take an additional action. So action economy, remember that as a games master, can really turn battles in your favour or against you. So that is my look at the Tower of Hapshut, which again is another smashing adventure. So it's quite short. I think you're probably looking at probably 3, maybe 4 weeks to actually get it done because it's short in feel, but there's still an awful lot of rooms in that catacomb, and then obviously you've then got to go back to the dungeons. You've only got 29 locations, but you do get the additional one shot to go and kill or capture Red Eye. We don't always have to kill NPCs, do we? Let me know in the comments below. I would say some of my players always have to kill them. They don't believe in capturing. But this is a nice feel to it because I like Egyptian stuff, and you've got the scarabs, you've got those horrible giant scorpions in there, all the undead drones just carrying on, and that little mechanic of the sort of glowing light or the soul leaving the undead that they're killed, that's hopefully going to make the players think about stealth, trying to get around without interacting with all the guards. They might notice that the guards aren't actually looking at them. And you do, like I said, you've got that freedom aspect of investigating downstairs in the catacombs, which are really interesting actually. And some of the other stuff that the players are going to find in there, because you've got a little bit of puzzles. There's not a huge amount of puzzles. It's predominantly combat, this one, but they will discover really what's going on in the tower and get all the full backstory, and hopefully they'll be able to fix the curse and then get that magical big item in the tower working, because that's going to give a lot of information. Well, I'm not going to say any more than that. But yeah, another great one from Fenris77. Thank you for sending this to me. I'm enjoying actually everything you do. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that we're going to get into some of the vampire areas of Warhammer. Hint, hint, for the next sort of few things. There is one more book that he's got out that I can't really review it because I played the first half on a one-shot on my live channel. So, but I don't know whether I will review it. Well, I will review it after I played it. So yeah, I think there's a bundle as well. At one stage there was a bundle for all of these. So in essence, you don't need Deadlands, but I'm going to encourage you to go and get it. If you're a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplaying, if you're a fan of Shadowdark, if you're actually a fan of a very talented creator, writer and map maker, cartographer, to use the proper word, go and support Fenris77. And more importantly, if you haven't subscribed and liked or shared my video, please do if you consider me worthwhile, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.